Good morning, everybody. 9 o'clock on the dot. Paul Ihander with you. Max Goren is here as well. Let's give you a quick factoid to get your day started, shall we? If you write down today's date, 6/24/26, it reads the same frontwards and backwards. There's your factoid of the day. Also, if you can believe it, it's the final Wednesday of the month of June. That is right. June only has 30 days. So the next time we meet on a Wednesday, it'll be July. So thanks for coming on board for the ride, folks. Once again, we start the show off not with hockey, although we will talk some hockey news today, but we will chat it up a bit about the NBA draft, and not necessarily about the order of the draft, in which, teams for the most part didn't reach or surprise too hard. But off the top, when the Wizards went to Bonsa, and then Darren Peterson goes to the Utah Jazz, we kind of understood that a lot of the pre-draft prognostications came true. And it felt like that lottery, those first lottery picks, were going to slide right on through the way it needed to go. And sure enough, Cam Boozer goes number 3 to the Memphis Grizzlies, who a lot of people believe was the most, not necessarily the most talented, but the most ready of everybody who was drafted in the first round yesterday. And then the potential of Caleb Wilson going to the Chicago Bulls, where everyone kind of expected him to land. That was a good thing. That was a good thing for those guys. And then we get a Michael Brown, and then a Corey from Stanford goes late in the round 2. 4 ACC players get picked in the first round. Not a lot of surprises there. You're looking for fits, right? The Memphis Grizzlies, they get a fit with Cam Boozer. Again, one of the guys that they felt, at least after the draft was put away and things lined up, they were like, who's going to make a really impactful statement with their team? Boozer was ready to go. His dad was there last night. Obviously, good time. Caleb Wilson there too. Humble, ready to go. And to be honest, fulfills a large dream for all these guys. And I believe what it was, the first top 8 picks in the draft were one and dones, which shows you that maybe the NBA might want to drop that rule.
Yeah, and the other notable thing was I think the first 20 players all played college basketball, which is kind of, it's kind of good for college basketball, but if you consider it's more so like these international prospects that normally would have been playing like a couple years in the European pro leagues,
right?
Instead of going there and making a little bit less money, they're just coming to college now and getting that big NIL check, $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is. But yeah, I think it was the whole lottery, and up until I think Kareem Lopez was the first player who was selected that did not play college basketball last season in the draft.
21, yeah, he was one of the later picks in that round. As the draft moved on, the waiting game began for some. And I think, again, it's easy to talk about the top picks. It's very simple. We knew kind of how the top 4 were going to go. And in a lot of cases, things lined up pretty quickly. We will talk about the Hornets as well. But notably absent from the first round. And this could be kind of tonight, night 2, which you can hear right here on 99.9 The Fan. We had last night's coverage on The Fan as well. Tonight, night 2, round 2. Same teams involved, another 30 picks. This will be the night to where someone will not have to reach for talent that they thought was first-round talent. And I speak specifically in the ACC about Henry Vasar, who did not go in the first round, who a lot of people thought was going to go in the first round. And for Vasar, Max, I want to know what kind of money he turned down to come back to Chapel Hill to play for Michael Malone, and someone told him, no, go get guaranteed money in the NBA.
I felt like he was going to get picked in the first round just because he has a good skill set for the NBA with his size. He can shoot the ball a little bit. And he has a lot of the tools that are valued at the next level. So I was pretty surprised to see him slip out of the first round. Maybe he didn't get the good advice, or maybe throughout the process and the combine and evaluations, maybe teams saw something that they didn't necessarily like from his game. I don't know what it would be, but I have to only assume that he'll be one of the first players off the board tonight in the second round.
Stretch 4, a guy, and the first pick, by the way, belongs to the Knicks. right off the top. They could.
He was mocked there in a lot of the mock drafts,
He was,
too, but it was
puts him
late first round.
You're right. This puts him in the second round because the Knicks moved out. And the Knicks have some cap issues. They've got to sign some players. They need Jose Alvarado to sign a deal. But they need some help. They do need some help on the pivot because Mitchell Robinson wasn't exactly the most effective. He could eat minutes for Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But his free throw shooting was almost detrimental to them as the playoffs wore along.
And he's likely to go somewhere else in free agency this year, so they will need to kind of beef up that front court. And all they did really yesterday was move down and acquire a ton of cash and second-round picks.
Which, for a team that wins the championship, Carolina Hurricanes going through this noise right now, too. I'm like, do you need to make moves? Do you need to improve the team? But that's what the draft is for, to fill a handful of needs. And so for Vesar, who did not go first round, we know he will go in the second round. The difference between first-round picks in the NBA, second-round picks in the NBA, in most cases, is the fact that the money's not guaranteed. You can play on two-way contracts if first-rounder. The number one pick could play on a two-way contract, but still guaranteed money, and there's still a scale that comes along with it. When you move into the second round, now you're talking about, okay, it's not necessarily what's wrong with you. It's more about, all right, teams felt that they could get you at a lower rate, at a lower spot, and take less of a chance on you. And you've heard the saying, right? You can't teach height, right? Height is just given. Height is God-given. And for those who are blessed to be able to reach the top shelves without steps, I'm not one of those people. I am thankful that you exist, that you can reach high things in places where I cannot reach high things. It's even been made into a commercial. But for Vesar, certainly at North Carolina, he's looking for a different spot. And I can only imagine, because I'm very positive they dangled some money, because he took a long time to decide whether he was going to be draft bound or not. If that juice was worth the squeeze, and clearly the chips did not fall in his corner. Will he play in the NBA? Will he be drafted? Yes, absolutely. He'll be off the board tonight, most likely early for a team that needs help in the pivot, team that needs some rebounding skill, and again, you can't teach height. The other player, again, I don't know how much money had been dangled, if even money had been dangled in front of Isaiah Evans, the Fayetteville product for the Duke Blue Devils. Another guy that was thought to be landing in the first round, late in the first round, did not find a home. And between him and Vesar, they will be probably off the board in the top 5. Isaiah Evans was showing up right around pick 20 as best available. It was a litany of Power 4 conference guys who fit a million different needs. And when Quaintance came off the board to the San Antonio Spurs, which they needed help in the pivot, there's no doubt about it, and the Spurs also went off and traded for the UConn center, Terrace Reed Jr., which, by the way, was a great trade. Like, the Spurs got bigger. They saw what happened to them in the postseason, got some help for Wemby for sure. Wemby got worn down, pushed around quite a bit. And so the Spurs did pretty well in that aspect of things. But Evans was coming up as best available in the latter third of that first round, and he never came off the board. And you talk about a guy who's got work ethic. You talk about a guy who definitely improved year 1, year 2, and that was about draft stock, right? He got to shine, sacrificed a few things year 1, clearly. Year 2, a different group, Boozer twins, Malik Brown, who is also available, who is expected to go off the board for Duke. Like, day 1 was strong for the ACC. Day 2 could have even more ACC players coming off the board. But then you have to wonder about, why did some of these guys slide to the second round who we all had imagined were first-round selections? And Evans was one of those guys. And Evans got bigger again. Like, his shooting did not regress in a more starring role. Like, his bucket, I believe, when he beat Florida, right? With that, he had his moments. Like, bring out the rice cooker and the Instapot. Like, he was heating up fast. And he was cooking in the majority of cases. Is it just frame? We know he can shoot. We know he can play defense. But someone out there just felt that there was a different need in play. And again, when you're looking at a guy like Evans, was money put in front of him? Or did Duke say, hey, listen, or he saw the writing on the walls and, hey, listen, man, you're here. We'll play you some more. But your draft stock might not get any better based on what's coming down the road next year. He gambled. It didn't pay off with the first-round selection. He should get a day 2, though.
Yeah, he had a really good finish to late regular season into the ACC tournament and NCAA tournament. I felt like he had some big moments. I think back particularly to the Sweet 16 when they were playing against St. John's. He was massive in that game and them coming back to win that one. And then, of course, they had the unfortunate collapse at the end of the next game to lose in the Elite Eight. But yeah, a couple of talents in him and Vesar that probably had the opportunity to come back. Obviously, different situations with Duke's incoming class of transfers and recruits is pretty loaded. And UNC now with the new coach and Michael Malone, I'm sure that he probably more likely made more of a push to keep Vesar at Carolina than Duke did to keep Evans. I'm sure, again, like you mentioned, Blue Devils would have been happy to have him back, but they kind of had more support coming. They had more kind of, I don't want to say hired guns, but in college basketball with the way that guys are typically gone after 1 year, it is kind of like that. They did have more help on the way. So I'm sure that as they head into the draft today, they're definitely thinking back to those decisions they made throughout the process, that maybe having a double take or going back to reconsider, like, hey, did I make the right choice? Would I rather have gone back and still gotten paid to play one more year in college and maybe boost my stock, or am I going to be able to make the most out of an opportunity getting drafted here on day 2? But at this point, there's nothing you can change, so they're going to try to make the most of the opportunity and hope they land in a good spot in the second round. Special
players will do special things. That's Max. I'm Paul. Names we haven't mentioned that will be day 2 guys. I mentioned Brown, Blake Brown at Duke. Again, Sion James kind of player, defensively responsible, can shoot, big body. Quadir Copeland, too. He's been an interesting case, and we've got Corey Smith of Pack Power 247 coming in to join us at 9:30. We'll talk a little bit more about Copeland. Copeland's stock has actually moved up. There was a lot of thought that he was going to be a day 2 kind of guy. But in many cases early on, as these early mocks came out, it was like, all right, well, we'll see him sneak in at 55, 56, 57. There are some now who believe, because literally the dude is 6'6" and plays point guard, which if you can handle the ball and control the things you can control, that is a magical type of player at 6'6". You provide a lot of issues when it comes to defense. He has now moved kind of more second round in the things that I have seen in the past 12 hours since the first round settled down, that he could move a little bit earlier than thought. Same kind of cat, available to them. So he's one of those guys that will be thought of a little bit differently. I'm interested to see where Braden Smith lands, Max, the 5'10" point guard from Purdue, who you talk about, size, right? You can't teach the height. Well, you can't control the height either. And Smith is one of those guys who distributes, creates, and can get his shot off. At 5'10", though, is there a spot for him truly in the NBA against, we see more physical guard play these days?
Yeah, it's tougher for undersized guards. It feels like all the guards coming into the NBA these days are like, 6'4", 6'5" at least. But there are a couple undersized guards in this draft. The Hornets actually got one in a 6'1" guard in Christian Anderson with their second of their 2 first-round picks last night.
Shoots like crazy.
Yeah, he is all these players are good, obviously. It's the NBA draft. But, he's someone I think of as, that guy is just an absolute baller. He can take over a game. How many times I've seen him, help carry Texas Tech, especially after JT Toppin went down this past season. He is going to be a good bench piece for them. Good ball-handling point guard, really good shooter. And then for the Hornets as well, their first pick of the 2 at 14, they got Hannes Steinbach from Washington, who I admittedly did not watch a ton of this past college season because Washington was not good. But Steinbach was very good. He actually had 22 double-doubles, I believe is what it was. Averaged nearly 12 rebounds a game. The combination of him and Moussa Diabate in the front court for Charlotte is going to be just an offensive rebounding machine, which is perfect for a team like Charlotte that loves to shoot a ton of threes, because if you miss, now you've got 2 guys that are going to dog up on the glass and go get that rebound and give you another opportunity. So I like the picks from Charlotte. Those two guys, they're both German, and they actually have played together and are friends. They've been playing together internationally for Germany, so it's kind of like a Hornets DNA plus power friendship type of deal where they come in with that instant chemistry, which I really like, and should help bolster the team. I would have liked to see them make some kind of big move, but I don't really know what was really out there and available. Again, like my kind of pipe dream was that they somehow ended up moving up to get Cameron Boozer, but that just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, we can all have dreams.
But I'm pretty satisfied with what they were able to do. I think they really wanted Merez Johnson and Bennett Sturts, and Johnson ended up going top 10. He went over there
to Dallas.
Went back to Dusty May in Dallas, and then Sturts, the Thunder, continued to do what they do, made a move, traded up to go get him. I think it was at 16.
They're set up,
so
too.
He was not available for them at 18. Would have been a good bench guard, but I'm happy with Anderson, even though he's a little bit more undersized.
It was a storybook, and I didn't put it out on X. I thought of it immediately, and I said, you know what, I get it. It was a storybook draft for the Hornets last night with Hans Christian Andersen.
Yes.
I was like, come on, really? That's that. I mean, they put that up, and I was like, okay, the poster is made. The poster has been made for sure. So night 2 of the NBA draft coming up tonight. We'll have full coverage for you right here on 99.9 The Fan. Pre-draft coverage starts at 7:30, of course, all day, and then the formal part of the draft from New York at 8 o'clock. You can stream it live, 99.9 The Fan, through the app, or if you've downloaded it through the Apple Store for your iPhone, Google Play Store for your Android. And we understand we are having some app streaming issues this morning. Totally get it. It's part of a larger network issue that we are having in the area when it comes to that. So hopefully some of that comes back. But, hey, there you go.
I'm Max Goren with 3 things you need to know right now from 99.9 The Fan. Basketball's future stars found their new homes in the first round of the NBA draft last night, with no surprises in the top 4 picks. A.J. Devonta, Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, and Caleb Wilson were the first 4 prospects off the board. NBA draft coverage continues with the second round tonight on 99.9 The Fan. Stars continued to shine at the World Cup yesterday, with Cristiano Ronaldo getting in on the scoring for Portugal with 2 goals in a win over Uzbekistan. Ronaldo became the first man ever to score in 6 different World Cups. Other results from yesterday include England drawing Ghana, Croatia defeating Panama, and Colombia beating Congo DR. A flurry of trade activity occurred in the NHL yesterday. 4 separate trades were made, with 5 total first-round draft picks on the move, including 2 top 10 selections in this Friday's first round. Among the players on the move were William Eklund heading to the Senators, Jordan Kyrou to the Capitals, and Bowen Byram to the Blackhawks. For all the latest news on your favorite teams, download the 99.9 The Fan app or visit 999thefan.com.
Last time that I checked, the Carolina Hurricanes were still a whole team. I'm not sure after today they could be. Who knows? I mean, who knows? The NHL started getting busy, and right after the Stanley Cup Championship parade, I remember asking the commissioner, NHL commissioner Gary Bettman, a couple years ago, when sitting in a room with him, I remember asking him, like, do you think we could, like, during the Stanley Cup Championship, obviously not knowing the Canes were going to make the run that they did, do you think we would stop announcing trades and doing deals, like do a moratorium during the Stanley Cup Final on moves and things like that? And he said, well, Paul, I think, it still keeps the excitement in the markets that aren't playing in the Stanley Cup, that we are still doing business and we are still making announcements. I go, but doesn't that take away from the Cup? He goes, well, you have general. It was kind of wishy-washy answer, whatever it was. And it seemed like this year it was really quiet during the Stanley Cup. Maybe he just made a phone call and said, I remember that conversation I had with Paul about deals getting done and moves being made and signings and whatnot. And sure enough, after the quiet, after the 1 million people attended downtown Raleigh parade last weekend, and by the way, there were 1 million people there, the NHL decided to heat things up very quickly. Obviously, the Brady Tkachuk trade to the Florida Panthers, and he has already been introduced, by the way, in Florida. I don't know how many people showed up for that, but maybe 2, maybe 3. Then all of a sudden, the floodgates started opening up, and the unfortunate part, or fortunate part, I guess, is for the Carolina Hurricanes that the teams around them seem to be wanting to get better. And that's the case in all cases in the NHL, but like the path if there was such thing as an easy path to the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's getting a little more challenging with the deals that were made yesterday as the Sabres are moving things around. They're moving positional players and moving things around. The Ottawa Senators are moving things around. Did we realize that Jordan Kyrou, the forward for the St. Louis Blues, was available? Did we know this?
That is an awful move.
Not that I want that.
Awful move for Washington. Awful, awful, awful.
It felt like they were just kind of swapping dudes.
And
then a pick.
I have a buddy who works over at, I've mentioned this company before, Sports Media Technology, the company that does all the tags and stuff on NHL games. You watch the broadcast, if there's like a disc around a player or like a stat like appears above their head and tracks with them.
Yeah.
He has watched a ton of St. Louis Blues through that. That was the team that he worked with. And he has watched more of Jordan Kyrou than anyone, and he is very much not a fan of his game, and I would tend to agree. Not the most motivated back-checking player defensively. Definitely a lot of talent, but maybe not the best work rate, the best work ethic. So for Washington to move to the 16th overall pick in Friday's draft, Connor McMichael, who I think is a great young player. I believe he's a restricted free agent this year, and a prospect to bring in Jordan Kyrou, who I think is in the midst of an 8x8 contract, $8 million per year for 8 years. I don't love the move. I feel like they're maybe just trying to run it back with Ovi.
Is this filling an Ovechkin
for another
gap
year
in case Ovi doesn't come back?
Yeah, and it didn't make a ton of sense for me for them to, they're not really building up for long-term success, especially after missing the playoffs last year. Moving a good young player, a first-round pick, and a prospect for that, I didn't love, but it was not the worst trade of the day. By far, in my opinion.
What do you think is the Bowen Byram trade?
100% the Bowen Byram trade
for the number 4 pick.
So
I don't know what Chicago's doing to be honest.
I don't either.
I don't get it.
I understand they've been rebuilding for a while and they need to bring in NHL caliber solid good players. I understand that. Bowen Byram is a decent player, decent top 4 defenseman. Not a guy that it would hurt to have on your second pairing. But to take him on as well as Jordan Greenway, who has a bad contract. They're taking on $10 million worth of against the cap.
They just had to get to the floor, I guess.
Yeah, and then they send back the 4th overall pick, as well as the I believe number 45 overall. So 2 first and a second and a prospect to Buffalo, and with that first round pick being 4th overall in what is considered a pretty good draft, to get back a solid second pairing defenseman and basically cap filler. That is a terrible move, in my opinion, for Chicago. I understand you're trying to reach that kind of competitive equilibrium where you might actually try to make the playoffs, but that is just way too much for just an average to maybe slightly above average top 4 defenseman. And if you ask the analytics and the advanced stats, he's very much a below average second pairing defenseman. So really not sure what Chicago's doing, just trying to accelerate and skip steps in their rebuild.
Yeah, they rebuild, and then they find out that the bathroom wasn't to their specs, so they tear out the bathroom and they try to build something new.
And I think Byram needs a new contract in a year or two as well, and with the way contracts are moving with the new cap and what defensemen can command, especially ones that do have some puck-moving skills like Bowen Byram, they're going to have to commit a lot of money to him as well. I don't like that move for Chicago at all. Chicago and Washington, to me, the 2 clear losers yesterday in terms of all this NHL trade activity.
Ottawa Senators find their replacement, so to speak, for Brady Tkachuk, trading with San Jose and William Eklund. Youth for sure. It's not a replacement, but it's what it's going to be, and they end up giving up. They end up giving their rights to a pick and the 9th overall pick in the draft as well. But that's the one they got for Brady Tkachuk. So. Kind of
that one made a little more sense.
Addition by subtraction, I guess.
For both sides to me. Eklund is a very talented young player. He got drafted. I think he got drafted 9th overall.
Yeah, in
2021. So he's kind of coming into his own. Good NHL level young player for Ottawa, and then they trade that number 9 pick that they just got in the Brady Tkachuk trade to San Jose, and now they are more likely to take Ivar Stenberg with their 2nd overall. And then they can draft whatever defenseman prospect they like at number 9. It's rumored that maybe they're looking at Keaton Verhoff, who's a really popular prospect in this draft. I kind of like it for both sides. Ottawa got a couple of prospects back with Eklund as well, sending that number 9 out. So that one's more of a win-win to me, where it kind of fits a need for both, because San Jose's been needing to get a defenseman, and if they did not have this second top 10 pick, they probably would have gone Chase Reed at number 2 overall, which maybe would be a little bit higher than you should take him, especially when Stenberg, who is a really, really good forward prospect, will likely still be on the board there after Gavin McKenna goes first overall to Toronto.
And Toronto making moves right away. The best news for the entire NHL is that John Chaika, the GM in Toronto, brand new GM, is wheeling and dealing. And Morgan Riley looking to go west to 4 teams. I can only imagine what those teams are. Probably Colorado, Dallas, Utah, and Vegas. We'll just call those 4 teams, or maybe Minnesota instead of Utah. Feels like Minnesota's on everybody's list to go out west.
Just pick the 4 best teams.
Right, yeah, so that would be it. Minnesota, Dallas, Vegas, and Colorado. We'll just call it that. Brandon Carlo could be out, and then there's Matty Nyes. A
lot of trade rumors. A lot of smoke about the
super smoke about him.
The failed trade. Apparently, he was about to be moved to Montreal at this last year's trade deadline, but the paperwork didn't get submitted in time. I wonder if he was clued in on that whole time, because that must be awkward. It's kind of like the Jaylen Brown thing that's going on with the Celtics and the NBA right now. Like, to know that you were, like, they tried to trade you and were like to the finish line, and the only reason it didn't happen is a clerical error. How would you feel after that?
That happened with Elvis Dumerville, although he still ended up getting moved to Baltimore back in the day where the fax didn't go through at 5 o'clock.
I wonder if they're still working with that. It's probably more DocuSign and stuff now.
Right.
And then there was one more trade too, is the one that kind of kicked everything off yesterday. It's in division for the Hurricanes too. Simone Nemec, the former second overall pick, getting moved to Calgary along with Maxim Siplikov for prospect, and 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick.
Devils are deep on the blue line.
Calgary trying to load up on their back end, while the Devils just couldn't really find a spot for him in their top 6. So they get some draft compensation and prospect and move on from a guy who pretty publicly wanted more of a role. So he'll probably find that in Calgary.
We will see what happens today. Carolina Hurricanes still whole as of now.